Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 15 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast, the road to 272 bets. Marches on. Before we get into my picks for this week, I'm going to get a little personal here for once, and I hope you don't mind if you kind of bear with me here for the next couple of minutes. Throughout my life, ever since I was a young kid, the wonders of the universe always fascinated me. Why are we here? Is there life after death? Is there a God? So I was raised Catholic, so naturally my journey on kind of discovering the answer to that started with Catholicism, Christianity. I read the Bible when I was young. I read a good portion of it. As I got older, I then branched off and looked at other religions. I looked at Hinduism. I read bits of the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu text. I then read about some other Eastern religions like Buddhism and Taoism, and eventually, when I got to college, I took some philosophy classes. I studied, Rene Descartes. I think, therefore, I am. I studied Immanuel Kant. I studied Friedrich Nietzsche, who said God is dead, basically his point being that science has killed religion. Then when I got a little bit older, I evolved from philosophy, and I started looking at some modern theories, including Nick Bostrom's simulation theory, which some of you might be familiar with. I've read about the Fermi paradox, which is basically a question of why haven't we run into aliens yet? And I have to say, through 31 years of my existence and studying religion and philosophy and modern theories, nothing has sent me into an existential crisis like the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. It doesn't really make sense. The statistical likelihood of a team continuously winning by different ways in the last 2 minutes, last minute, last play of games on a weekly basis is starting to bother me. At first it was funny, then it was kind of crazy, then it was weird. Now it's starting to send me into an existential tailspin, truly. I'm starting to feel like I'm Jim Carrey in that movie where like everyone's an actor and he's kind of like a main character on like a television show. I feel like it's some kind of sick joke. I don't understand how that's possible for the Chiefs to continuously find ways to win. And of course, I tweeted out the list. I got in a war with Chiefs fans. Most notably Nincompoop Nick. And then once again on Sunday night, I took the Chargers money line, and once again, they found a new way to win, which was Cameron Dicker had the worst kickoff in NFL history, gave the ball to the Chiefs on the 40-yard line. They then converted multiple third downs to keep the drive alive. They then had their backup kicker kick a field goal, and it doinked it in, which I think there's been probably like 50 kicks that have hit an upright this season. I don't think a single one has doinked it in. I'm pretty sure if the Chargers kicked that, it would have gone like every other doink field goal, and it would have gone doinking out. The doinking in has thrown me for a loop. I sat there for 20 minutes after the game, truly pondering the wonders of the universe. I don't know how this makes sense. I don't think it does. The statistical probability of this kind of season happening to one team has to be 0.000000001%. I think it's more likely that we are living in a simulation, and whatever sick fuck is running this simulation is a Chiefs fan or just likes to see people like me lose their goddamn mind. And to make matters worse, I have to deal with the worst fan base in history. It might be the worst fan base, period. I'm not just talking about North American sports or sports in general. Chiefs fans might be the worst fan base in the history of life. I saw a tweet today. I'm going to read it. This is from Seth Kaiser at RealMNChiefsFan. It says, quote, "Being a Chiefs fan in 2024 is somehow, despite all the winning, perhaps the most infuriating and stressful experience I've had as a fan. And I was here in 2012. And then he wrote a Substack where I guess I didn't read it, but I'm guessing he makes the claim that despite being back-to-back Super Bowl champions, despite having 3 Super Bowls in the last, 4 years, 5 years, despite being 12-1 and the best record in the NFL this year, the Chiefs fans they actually got it tough. It's got to be some hard being a Chiefs fan, doesn't it? And then there are also Chiefs fans who don't understand why they're hated. I like dealing with Patriots fans during their dynasty more than Chiefs fans, because at least Patriots fans were arrogant, but that was it. Chiefs fans are both arrogant, but also playing the whiny victim role. Oh, it's stressful playing every game where, it's a close game and then we end up winning. Oh, woe is me, 2 straight Super Bowls. Oh, it sucks so bad having the greatest quarterback of all time. Which doesn't add up to me, because which of the two is it? Am I an idiot for saying they're not as good as their record, or are they stressing you out and winning a lot of close games that they probably should just run away with it? Because it can't be both. Because if you're a Chiefs fan and you say it's stressful watching these games, they come down to the wire and then they end up going their way every game, and that's stressful. You can't then turn around and come at me on Twitter and saying that, hey guys, maybe of these 12 wins, maybe they didn't deserve a few of them. Because we're kind of saying the same thing, aren't we? Aren't we saying the same thing, but in different ways? And this is another one. The host of Arrowhead Addict, he works for Fansided, same, the website I used to write for, same parent company as Sports Illustrated, Minute Media. Patrick Allen, he tweeted this today on Monday. I have some tough news for everyone. The Chiefs doinking a 31-yard field goal off the upright and through was not lucky. It actually would have been quite unlucky if they had missed that kick. You know what is unlucky, though? Being on your third kicker due to injuries. Oh, the bad luck the Chiefs got. You're right. It was unlucky that they had the first ever doinking in I've seen this season. It's unlucky that they're on their third string kicker and he still manages to not miss a single kick. That's unlucky. The laundry list of ways that they've had games go their way at the end of games. The fact that they're 12-1 with by far the worst scoring margin in NFL history amongst 12-1 and 11-2 teams. Oh, it's actually unlucky is what it is. At least Patriots fans were just saying, yeah, we're the best. Go fuck yourself. Who cares? Chiefs fans are, yeah, we're the best. Go cry about it. Also, no one has it worse than us. Also, we're actually extremely unlucky. And oh, woe is me. Everything sucks. I hate being a Chiefs fan. And I feel like I'm the crazy one for calling them out for what it is. So that's how my weekend went. Oh, and by the way, I'm probably going 3-10 with my picks for the worst week of the road to 272. Did that help my existential crisis? No, certainly didn't. I'm recording this intro before Monday Night Football kicks off. I need the Bengals to cover 5.5. I got a bad line. It's down to 4.5 now. I need them to cover a bad line of 5.5 so I can have the privilege of going 4-9 with my picks this season. I think if I go 3-10, I don't think I've ever done 3-10 or worse. Maybe I did a couple years ago and had a losing season. I fully expect the Cowboys to cover tonight. I fully expect to be 3-10. Which will pretty much make having a profitable season out of reach with 4 weeks to go. So I also had a little come to Jesus moment even before the Chiefs-Chargers game where I just kind of had to accept it hasn't been a good year for my bets. To be honest, to be fair, I did have a profitable week, my player props, barely. But listen, I'm not a professional bettor. Betting on every single NFL game at the same time on Monday nights is not going to be a long-term profitable strategy. I've been profitable, though, doing it 3 of the 4 years heading into this year. Some years are going to be bad years. I've had some things not go my way, sure. I've had some things go my way. Maybe I haven't, read games as well as I have in years past. Maybe I've just made some bad bets. That's certainly the case. But I have had to, for the road to 272, just kind of accept the fact that it's probably going to be a losing year. Am I going to give up? No. I'm still going to bet every single game of the final 4 weeks. And I'll still bet every single playoff game too. But the dream of finishing in the green is a dying dream, and it might have just died. The Chiefs might have killed it, to be honest. The doinking in might have killed my dreams. It might have sent me into an existential crisis. And if they continue to win games on the last play of the game, and if they do it all the way to if they win the Super Bowl on a crazy bullshit last play of the game, I literally might have to check myself into a mental hospital. I'm losing my mind. Truly. This isn't an act. It's making me question everything. Not just football, not just sports. It's making me question everything. It makes no sense. They continue to do it. Yeah. I've still made my claim. I think they're going to lose the first game of the playoffs, but looks like that's not going to be till the divisional round. It's going to be tough for them to lose the 1 seed at this point with that win over the Chargers, and the Bills lost to the Rams, but whoever they face, I'm still going to stick to the claim that they're going to lose. They're going to be a one-and-done team. But hey, I feel bad for Chiefs fans. It's got to suck. It's got to suck to be a Chiefs fan. Hey, I'm 31 years old. I've seen, the teams I cheer for win 0 championships. Maple Leafs, Blue Jays, to be fair, won a championship when I was 8 months old, so I guess you can't really count that. Falcons, plus the greatest collapse in Super Bowl history. The best team I cheer for is probably the UC Irvine Anteaters, who are like 8-0 this season, and probably the best mid-major team in college basketball. But hey, you got to feel for the Chiefs fans. It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough, living through the stressful close games, but then winning it on the last play every single week. It's tough. I my heart goes out to them. I wish them well. This is the NFL Week 15 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gamblor, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, let's get into some Week 15 picks, starting with the Thursday night football game between the 49ers and the Rams, and I'm going to continue to back my trusty 49ers, who my faith in them finally paid off this past week. One of the few wins I had this past week was the 49ers completely demolishing the Bears. So I'm gonna keep believing in the 49ers, who now come into Week 15 ranking second in the NFL in net yards per play, plus 1.3. Only the Ravens are better than the 49ers in net yards per play this season, despite the 49ers' bad record. Listen, I know their backfield is decimated. McCaffrey out, Jordan Mason out. Guerrero? He might be out. Guerrero? He might be out too. He's questionable. But it doesn't matter. Juwan Jennings has slid in nicely at the number 1 receiver spot. Brock Purdy still slinging it. And I do still believe in this 49ers team. George Kittle. Meanwhile, the Rams, that game against the Bills, offensively was the best that the Rams have looked all season, maybe? I don't think that would be unfair to say. But I am not going to necessarily continue to bet on the Rams as if they're going to be able to keep playing that well. The Rams have some red flags, specifically on third down. They rank in the bottom 5 in the NFL in third down conversion rate. Matt Stafford, outside of last week, has largely been about a statistically average quarterback this season. Cooper Kupp has looked old. If a team can figure out a way to shut down Puka Nacua, it basically shuts down the Rams offense. I know Kyren Williams has looked good the past few weeks, but still overall, I think he's averaging 4.3 yards per carry, which isn't bad. He's still not the same guy that he was last year. He's not been able to produce at the same level that he was last year. But not even 4.3. 4.0 yards per carry, a full yard per carry less than he averaged last year. He still gets touchdowns, but this Rams offense is kind of Puka Nacua. I still think the 49ers are the more well-rounded team. They're at home. I know it opened at 3. It got bet down to 2, and then it came back up to 2.5, so I'll take the 2.5 for the 49ers. I will continue to believe in them. I still do think they are a team. Like, if the NFL season was 82 games long, like the NBA season or the NHL season, I honestly think the 49ers would right the ship, and at the end of that 82 game season would be a top 3 team in the NFC, if not top 1. They've suffered for some bad from some bad variance this season, so I'm still going to believe in them. I'll take a -2.5, -110 on Thursday night against the Rams. Moving on to Sunday's action, we got the Chiefs and the Browns up first. I have not handicapped the games involving the Cowboys and the Bengals yet. This game is just now entering the fourth quarter, so I'm going to wait for that to wrap up before I do that. But Browns and Bengals, of course, I'm going to take the Browns plus 4.5. This was at 6.5 earlier on Monday, but unfortunately, I would have jumped all over it, but I got to follow the rules of the road to 272, and I couldn't bet it until tonight, and by the time I went to go bet it tonight, it had moved down 2 points. I'm still going to take the Browns. I'm not going to be dumb and take the team taking on the Chiefs on the money line, because the Chiefs will find a way to win, as has been proven. But the Chiefs do not deserve to be 4.5 point favorites on the road against anybody in the NFL. 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games. Good teams win, great teams cover. If the Chiefs are 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games, I guess that means they aren't a great team. 20th in the NFL in net yards per play this season. Another game against the Chargers where they lost a yards per play battle. -0.2 this season. That is worse than the Titans. That's the same mark as the Dolphins, who didn't have their quarterback for half the season. Cleveland has been better at net yards per play over the last 3 games, plus 0.2, basically since Jameis got in. Chiefs over their last 3 games, net yards per play of -0.8. No matter what metric you look at, the Browns hang right there with the Chiefs. There's no way they deserve to be 4.5 point home favorites. And no matter what, this game will come down to the last play of the game. So I'm going to hope the Chiefs win on a last-second field goal or block a last-second field goal kick. Or I just hope it's not decided on a last-second touchdown by the Chiefs and then they cover by doing it that way. But regardless, 4.5 at home, I will take the Cleveland Browns. By the way, Jameis Winston against Jerry Jeudy, that connection has been fantastic. So they should get that going against the Chiefs secondary, which has been bad this season. 21st in opponent dropback EPA, 20th in opponent dropback success rate. Give me the points with the Browns. Dolphins and Texans. This is going to be my upset pick of the week. I'll take the Miami Dolphins plus 130. The Texans, they probably will be a little bit fresh coming off the bye here this past week, but a lot of red flags surrounding this Texans team, specifically their offense. I don't think enough people are talking about how much CJ Stroud has regressed this season. We can't really hide away from it at this point. 28th amongst all quarterbacks in EPA plus CPOE composite. That's 2 spots below Daniel Jones. That's 1 spot above Caleb Williams. As a whole, their offense is 22nd in EPA per play, 30th in success rate. This offense has been horrific. Now they're a little bit better, especially they have some explosiveness with Nico Collins in the lineup. But still, I think the Dolphins are the far superior offense in this one. I think the Texans defense probably has a slight edge on the Dolphins defense. But given how much the Dolphins offense statistically, especially when Tua is in a quarterback, how much better they have been than the Texans offense, I will take a shot with them as underdogs in Houston. Listen, this game's not outdoors. It's not in the north. It is indoors in Houston. So the Dolphins offense should be fine. I'll take them on the money line plus 130. Commanders and the Saints. I just don't know how you could justify a bet on the New Orleans Saints. So I'll take the Commanders -7.5, -108 against the Saints. Derek Carr looks like probably done for the year. Broke his non-throwing hand. I think he might be in concussion protocol as well. So now the Saints got to go to Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener, both guys who are bottom 5 in every single quarterback metric in the snaps that they have taken this year. And not only that, I mean, you got no weapons left. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Taysom Hill, who was kind of their main weapon when Derek Carr was out. They got Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And then they have probably Spencer Rattler throwing them the ball. I don't know how they're going to be able to do anything in this game against the Commanders. Against the Commanders defense, especially a Commanders team that, yes, I am not sold on them necessarily being as good as their record. Their offense has regressed a little bit in the second half of the season. I cited the Cliff Kingsbury stats before. But still, at the end of the day, for season-long numbers, they're still 3rd in the NFL in EPA per play and success rate. And the Saints defense is bad. Saints defense gives up the 2nd most yards per play, giving up 5.9 yards per snap. This seems like a no-brainer of a bet to me. I just don't see how the Saints can keep pace with Washington. So I'll take the Commanders minus 7.5 at minus 108. The Jets and the Jaguars for the first time in a long time. I will take the Jets minus 3, minus 115 against the Jacksonville Jaguars because if there's one team that Aaron Rodgers can look like his former MVP self against, it is the Jaguars. And I will say, give credit to Aaron Rodgers. I thought when this season was going to be out of reach for the Jets, I figured he was just going to say that he had an injury and not play anymore. He continues to play. They're officially eliminated from the playoffs. He continues to play. He's a weirdo. I haven't watched that Netflix documentary yet. I think it's Netflix. I don't know if I will. I might cringe too much. But I would, give credit where credit's due. Aaron Rodgers is not giving up on the season, which is good to see. And now he gets to play against a Jacksonville secondary that ranks dead last in both opponent dropback EPA and opponent yards per pass attempt. They give up 7.8 yards per throw. Alan Lazard is back. Devontae Adams, obviously. Garrett Wilson. The Jets offense should be able to completely torch the Jaguars through the air. Jaguars also have a net yards per play over their last 3 games, basically since Mac Jones has taken over, of minus 1.4. That's the second worst mark in the league in that stretch. So I think this is a complete mismatch. I think the market has now adjusted based on how the Jets have looked, but the Jets have played much better competition than the Jaguars. Would I lay 6 points on the Jets? No. But finally, we see a reasonable spread on the New York Jets. I'll take the minus 3, minus 115. The Ravens and the Giants, another one. I wish I could have bet on it earlier. The Ravens were 13.5-point favorites. I love them at that number. Of course, by the time I was able to place my bets tonight, they're up over 2 touchdowns. I hate this bet now, but I still have to do it. I'll take Ravens minus 14.5, minus 112. This is a crazy spread. It's a crazy amount of points to lay. But we might have the best offense in the NFL going up against the worst offense in the NFL. Ravens lead the NFL in yards per play, 6.8 yards per snap. Giants second last in yards per play, averaging just 4.7 yards per snap. So the Ravens are averaging 2.1 more yards per play than the New York Giants. And the Giants have been even worse since Daniel Jones has been out, averaging just 4.3 yards per play over their last 3 games. Not only that, but the biggest strength of the Giants offense, their only chance really to hang with teams is to run the ball with Tyrone Tracy. And number 1, they refuse to do it. For some reason, he's getting like 9 carries a game. He should be touching the ball a lot more than that. And number 2, the biggest strength of the Ravens defense is their ability to stop the run. The Ravens are weak in the secondary, but the Giants simply don't have a quarterback that can take advantage of the secondary. Drew Lock sucks. Tommy DeVito sucks. And now the Ravens are fresh off a bye week too. Fresh off a bye week with still plenty left to play with the AFC North still up for grabs. The Ravens might just come out and completely steamroll the New York Giants. I want no part of betting on the Giants in this game. I will take the Baltimore Ravens minus 14.5, a minus 112. I will say it is worth noting the Ravens defense has actually stepped up a little bit in recent weeks. We'll see in the final stretch of the season if they have made some adjustments and fixed those mistakes. Or if this is a defense we can go ahead and fade once the playoffs get here. Next up, we got the Steelers and the Eagles. I mean, I wish I would have just trusted my Steelers last week because we got another week where every metric screams to me that the Eagles are the far superior team. Take the Eagles, lay the points. But I said, 4 weeks ago now, 5 weeks ago, I'm done betting against the Steelers. I'm done betting against the Mike Tomlin voodoo. I will take the points with the Steelers. Now, do the Eagles win? I think so. Do I want to lay 5.5 points against the Mike Tomlin voodoo? No, I don't. And it's hard for me to really handicap these games now because my handicapping process is very analytics driven, as you know, statistics driven. But I've tried to handicap Steelers games for the past 5 years based on analytics, and it has been a losing effort. So I got to throw the analytics out when the Steelers play. I will just simply take the points with Pittsburgh. I will say the Steelers, I think, actually have been playing some good football in recent weeks. They're 9th in the NFL in net yards per play over the last 3 games at plus 0.5. They also do have the ability to stop the run. I think they should be. This is the toughest run defense the Eagles will have to face the rest of the year. And if they can't get their run game going, that's when they're susceptible to maybe I don't want to say get susceptible to get upset, but at least susceptible to not cover the spread. So I'll take the Steelers, sorry, plus 5.5. And what's this? The Battle of Pennsylvania, isn't it? Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, both Pennsylvania. Look at me knowing my American geography. Colts and Broncos. I've been betting on the Broncos all season. I see no reason to stop quite yet. I will take the Broncos minus 3.5 on their home field against the Indianapolis Colts, and this is a bet against Anthony Richardson. We kind of forgot about Anthony Richardson with the Colts being on bye this past week, but still, I've cited this stat before on this show. I'll say it again. Amongst all quarterbacks in the NFL who have played at least 224 snaps this season, Anthony Richardson ranks dead last in EPA plus CPOE composite. He's the only one with a negative number for that metric. He's also 30th in adjusted EPA per play. He had one solid start against the Jets a few games ago, and he has had 2 straight bad performances since then. I know the Colts beat the Patriots in a little bit of a comeback, but he still completed 50% of passes. He's now, for the season, completing 47.4% of passes, which is, I can't even say how bad that is. To have a season full of a sample size almost, and he is completing less than 48% of passes, that's bad. And things aren't going to get better for him this week because he has to now play on the road against arguably the best defense in the NFL. Broncos lead the NFL in opponent EPA per play. They rank second in opponent success rate. Now, the Broncos, the worst they looked all season was their last game against the Browns. But I think we can kind of chalk that up to a little bit of fatigue. They were obviously had the last bye week of the season. Now they're coming off the bye. I think they're going to be fresh. I think they're going to be able to dominate this Colts offense. And also, let's not remember the only Colts' real hope of consistently moving the ball is running the ball. And the Broncos allow just 3.6 yards per carry. It's also worth knowing Broncos much better at home. 7th best net yards per play at home this season at plus 0.8. Colts have a road net yards per play of minus 0.8, 6th worst mark. So a very good home team playing against a very bad road team. I will lay the 3.5 points with the Denver Broncos over the Indianapolis Colts. All right, we are halfway through. I'm going to take a quick break. I got to watch the rest of this Bengals-Cowboys game. Hopefully it's tied 20-20 right now in the 4th. The Bengals got to pull out some kind of miracle, or I'm going to be 3-10 last week. So I'll wait till this game is over, and then I'll handicap the 2 games remaining, and then I'll come back and break down my final 8 picks for the week. Be right back. All right, let's keep things going. Back-to-back Monday Night Football games that I've won my bet that I did not deserve to win whatsoever. Last week, the Broncos covered against the Browns on a pick 6 and then a second interception in the end zone. And this week, the Bengals cover on a blocked punt that then the Cowboys defender touched, with which then the Bengals were able to jump on, and then the Bengals scored on a long touchdown to then cover the 5.5 point spread. So that, thankfully, I didn't deserve it, but it brings me to 4-9 on the week. I don't think that's the worst week I've ever had. Still not good. So to update the season record, last week, 4-9 minus 5.36 units. Season to date record 101, 103, and 4 for minus 8.98 units. It has not been a good season. Like I said earlier, it's not over. My goal of being profitable for the year isn't over. We got 4 weeks of 16 games each, so that's 64 games left. That's plenty of time to make up 9 units, but I gotta get hot. I can't have another losing week. Another losing week will be the nail in the coffin, and I gotta have a couple of big winning weeks for sure. So I'm not gonna give up. Let's get into my second half of picks here. I've handicapped the games involving the Cowboys and the Bengals, so let's get into them. Let's actually start with those games. We're going to start with Cowboys-Panthers, and I'm going to take the Panthers -1, which I believe I read earlier today. If this holds, this will be the first time the Panthers will be favored in a game since 2022. So that's a neat little tidbit, but I will lay the 1 point on the Carolina Panthers. I got to give the Panthers credit. I thought they were going to get steamrolled by the Eagles last week. They held their own. They covered. Bryce Young looked decent against a very, very good Eagles secondary. Got to give him credit for that. I mean, Xavier Legette dropped a game-winning touchdown, or a potential game-winning touchdown. There's still 40 seconds left late in the game. I can't imagine being the guy who put $3 million on the Eagles' money line. I don't even know if that heartache that he had to experience during that game was worth the $400,000 profit or whatever it was he won, especially if he's not just like rich. I mean, maybe he's a pocket change guy, but I assume $3 million was probably a pretty big bet for that guy, and that would have, I think I would have died watching that game. Regardless, they won. Panthers did cover though, and I'm going against the Cowboys because I don't like betting based off vibes, but watching the Cowboys-Bengals game tonight, it did kind of seem like felt like they're in a situation where they had to win out. They seemed very hyped for that game. When they lost, they seemed like they acted like they just lost the Super Bowl. Micah Parsons pissed, Cooper Rush pissed. So once again, I hate betting based off vibes because this is always just, you can't really justify it, you can't quantify it. And who knows, maybe they'll get up for the game again this week, but that seems like that felt like a backbreaking loss to the Cowboys. Meanwhile, the Panthers' vibes are kind of high for a team that has 3 wins this season. Vibes kind of high. They kind of feel hopeful. I think they're kind of back in their guy Bryce Young. I think they're hopeful that they're taking steps in the right direction. They've given some of the best teams in the NFL the past few weeks all that they could handle. But more than anything else, this is a bet against Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush stinks. Cowboys have won some games with him. They almost won tonight. If you look at his numbers throughout these games, terrible. Like bottom 3 in the NFL, way worse than Bryce Young has looked since he came back. Even tonight against the Bengals, 16 for 31, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And he's just, if you're watching him throw the ball, he's inaccurate. He's tossing it all over the place. I'm going to fade Cooper Rush here. I like the Panthers as 1-point home favorite to Dallas, week 15. That bet's a little hat tip to the Panthers. Titans, Bengals. You fast forward a minute because you don't even need to hear me say it. I deserve to have a losing record betting on the NFL this season because I keep betting on the Tennessee Titans. They have covered the spread twice this season, I think. 2-11 covering the spread. No team, the next worst teams are 4-9 against the spread. 2-11 against the spread, and I am not learning my lesson. I will be betting on the Titans every single game the rest of the way out, most likely, and I'm going to do it again. At home to the Bengals, 4.5-point underdogs. I do feel like the Cowboys were the right side tonight. T's and P's to anyone who had both the Browns last week and and the Cowboys this week on Monday Night Football. They were, winning, if not, they were covering the entire game, if not winning. And even at the very end, it looked like, the Bengals, there was less than 2 minutes on the clock. The Bengals, if they were going to win, it kind of looked like it was going to be on a field goal. And then that last second touchdown just broke the hearts of Cowboys bettors. But my point is, the Cowboys offense is atrocious. Cooper Rush stinks. Rico Dowdle is pretty solid, but still, this Cowboys offense averaged 5.5 yards per play against the Bengals. 6.2 yards per rush. You just can't lay points on this Bengals team. And I got away with doing it this past week against the Cowboys. I'm not going to try to do that again against the Titans. I know obviously I have some Titans bias. For some reason, I've chosen them as a team I'm going to die for this season. But if the Bengals offense has any level of hiccup whatsoever, and they certainly might against a pretty solid Titans defense, the Titans are going to be in a spot where they might not only cover this game, they could win. The Bengals defense has been given up. Let me see if I have it here. It's something like over 7 yards per play over the last 3 weeks. So before the Cowboys game, because these numbers aren't updated, their last 3 games before tonight, they had given up 6.8 yards per play. Since week 8, the Bengals defense is dead last in the NFL in opponent EPA per play, and it's not even close. So I just can't lay this many points on a road team against a Titans team that I know I'm objectively wrong, I guess, but a Titans team that I still feel is better than their record indicates. And I'm just not going to get over that fact, so I'm going to keep betting on them. I'll take them plus 4.5 at home to the Bengals. Moving on to the game of the week, the game that we are all hoping, unless you're a fan of a team that's in contention for the Super Bowl. I'm certainly not, because the Falcons blow. We are hoping this game between the Bills and the Lions is a Super Bowl preview, because that is what America needs right now. It needs a Buffalo and Detroit Super Bowl. I'm a little bit surprised on the line movement in this one. It opened lines -3. I thought it would come down a little bit, but it's come all the way down to -1.5. So 1.5 of line movement, significant because it comes off that magic number of 3. It's a home game for Detroit. So the market right now is actually evaluating on a neutral field. The Bills would be It'd either be a pick 'em or maybe the Bills like a slight favorite, depending on how many points you give Detroit for home field advantage. But I disagree with that. I set this line. I actually thought the value was on the Bills. 1.5, I think the value flips back over to the Lions. I personally set this line at Lions minus 2.5. So I'll take the 1.5. I'll take Detroit. And the main thing that makes me lean Detroit in this one is the Bills have actually not been so great on the road this season. Their home and road splits have been pretty significant. Their net yards per play for the Bills falls from plus 1.4 down to minus 0.2 on the road. That is a difference of 1.6 yards net yards per play for the Buffalo Bills. Also, you have to consider, if the two offenses are a wash, and I think for the most part, I think you could say pretty comfortably the two offenses are close enough that they're basically a wash. Lions have had the significantly better defense this season. They rank second in league in opponent EPA per play. The Bills rank 10th. And in most metrics you look at, the Lions have been significantly better on defense. Even despite all the injuries they're having, they're still continuing to play very good defensive football. And if you want to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit on this one, I think a specific advantage the Lions have is third down offense. They rank 4th in the league in third down conversion rate, converting 45.81% of their third downs. And now they get to face a Bills defense, that the third down defense might be their biggest weakness. 25th in opponent third down conversion rate. Teams are converting over 43% of third downs against them. So keep an eye on that matchup, the Lions third down offense against the Bills third down defense. And I think there is a little bit of value there on the Lions at their current number of minus 1.5. So I'll take Detroit at home to the Bills. Buccaneers and Chargers. The Buccaneers are a team that it's almost like no matter what the spread is in their games, I'm going to take the team that's getting points. Because their offense is good enough that I don't necessarily want to bet. I don't want to lay points against them because their offense is extremely good. I also don't really want to lay points on them because their defense is so bad, the other team's going to be able to stay in the game. So with this one being in Los Angeles with the Buccaneers 3-point underdogs, I will take the 3 points with the Buccaneers. Now, maybe this is a little bit of an emo hedge, to be honest. If I'm being completely honest, because as a Falcons fan, I do need the Falcons to win this week. I need the Buccaneers to lose. So maybe it's a little bit of an emo hedge on that, but how about the Chargers win by 2, and we're all happy here. I don't think enough people realize how good the Buccaneers offense has been this season. They're actually 5th in the NFL right now in EPA per play. It is the Bills, it's the Ravens, it's the Commanders, it's the Lions, it's those 4 teams. Nobody's going to be surprised they're in the top 5 in EPA, but it's the Buccaneers that are 5th. They're also 4th in success rate and 5th in yards per play. So they have become a top 5 offense in the NFL. Now, you can't completely discount the Chargers, but it is clear, I think, when watching Los Angeles, that their lack of offensive skill positions hurts them. I think Justin Herbert is being hurt by his receivers are simply not getting open. And when they do get open, they drop a ton of balls. We'll see if Ladd McConkey gets back from them this week. They clearly missed his presence against the Chiefs. They're definitely missing J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards is not the guy. I actually think their other running back, Vidali, is actually a better running back than Gus Edwards. So regardless, I don't think the rush attack is as good as it was with Dobbins. So I have some concerns with the Chargers, not only to win games, but obviously to cover the spread as favorites. So with it being a 3-point spread, I will take the Buccaneers +3, minus 115. The Patriots and the Cardinals. I'm actually going to take the Patriots as underdogs, +6.5 on the road in Arizona. And it's all coming down to my concerns about Kyler Murray late in the NFL season. We knew early in his career, he kind of dwindled as the season went on. I remember there was one year, I think he was like the MVP favorite in like week 8 or week 9, and then completely fell off the face of the earth. We were blaming that all on Cliff Kingsbury being his coach, but it might also just be a Kyler Murray issue, because we are seeing Kyler Murray regress in his last few starts. And if you look actually over his career, by far, December is the worst month for him by a significant margin. Let me see if I can bring up some Kyler Murray numbers here. I had it up. I must have closed it at some point. But no matter what stat you want to look at for Kyler Murray, his numbers in December are significantly worse than previous months. In November, a little bit worse than October. October, a little bit worse than September. Where are we at here? Career splits. I thought I definitely, yeah, here we go. So December, let's just even go from November to December. He has 14 games in November played in his career, 20 in December. Completion percentage drops 3%. His quarterback rating drops 10 points. His yards per pass attempt drops 0.3 points. His yards per game drops 10 yards. And most notably, his turnovers go up by a significant margin. 20 games played in December, 20 interceptions, 21 fumbles. Now, only lost 4 of those fumbles. But if you count just balls fumbled and interceptions, he is averaging 2.05 interceptions and fumbles per game in December. 1 interception per game, just fumbles out of it. 1 interception per game in his career in December. Only 27 touchdowns. The Cardinals are 7-13 in Kyler Murray starts in December. And like I said, in every single metric you look at, it's not only worse, but it's worse by a significant margin. I don't know if that's maybe just a small sample size. I mean, 20 games compared to 14 in November, 23 in October, 17 in September. I don't know if some of that is because a lot of those games were with Cliff Kingsbury, or I think it might have to do with his size. I mean, him being a small guy, he gets hit a lot. His body is, I bet, pretty beat up. He can't run around as quickly and be as elusive at this point in the season as he can be early in the season with how banged up his body gets because he's so small, to be completely honest. I mean, there was a thing about him watching lack of film, and he knows in his contract that he would watch so much film during the week. When watching film is important? Late in the season. Early in the season, you can get by based on athleticism and skill. Late in the season, there's so much chess being played between offensive and defensive coordinators that if you don't watch film, you're going to be behind. So I have a theory that I'm now going to back my money up with, that I don't think Kyler Murray is at his best in December. Now, I'm not brave enough to take the Patriots money line because the Patriots are a bad football team, but I have no desire to lay 6.5 points on Kyler Murray right now until I'm proven incorrect. I will take the Patriots plus 6.5 against Arizona. Packers and Seahawks. Every week there's a game that I wish I could have a mulligan on and not bet. It'd be this one. I went back and forth. I don't really have a strong take on the total or the side. I ended up landing with the Seahawks plus 3 at minus 115. I talked about it last week with the Packers. They rank low in success rate, especially defensively, and I don't totally understand. I get why, because I know what success rate is, but I don't know what's causing it. It's not like their third down defense is horrific. Let me actually double check that, but I think they're middle of the pack in third down defense. Yeah, they are 13th in third down defense. So it's not third down defense. Are they giving up a lot of yards on first down, or are opponents putting themselves in favorable position after first down against the Packers defense? I don't know, but heading into this week, 28th in opponent success rate, dead last in opponent drop back success rate. Not good. That is a red flag for me. Now, the Seahawks are a team that I don't really know how good they are. I think they are trending in the right direction. I think their offensive line is getting some things figured out. Their defense has been a top 10 unit since week 8. But those success rate numbers for the Packers have me concerned, especially when we're talking about laying a field goal on the road in Seattle. I have some concerns about Green Bay. I just do. Once again, certainly not one of my best bets this week, probably my least favorite bet that I placed this week. But at the end of the day, I settled with, I'm going to take the points at the Seahawks at home, minus 115. Monday night, we got a doubleheader. I guess not a doubleheader. They go on at the same time. We got 2 games on Monday night, starting with the Vikings and the Bears. I will take the Vikings minus 6.5 at home. The Bears are terrible. Even they were immune to the bump that most teams get when firing their head coach. They were abysmal last week against the 49ers and now ranked dead last in net yards per play, minus 1.4, which is 0.4 yards worse than the next worst team. They have a net yards per play of -2 over their last 3 games. Now, you might want to take the points of the Bears because you think, hey, last time these two teams played, they went to overtime. It's important that you know that in that game, the Vikings actually outgained them 7 yards per play to 5.5 yards per play. Now, obviously, yards per play isn't the be-all, end-all, but the Bears had some things go their way, especially in the late game situations that led to that final score, I think, being closer than it should have been. I think if you told me right now that they will once again, Vikings average 7 yards per play, Bears average 5.5, I think I'd feel pretty confident betting Vikings minus 6.5. Obviously, don't forget Vikings at home this time around. That should give them an advantage compared to last time. And I just think these two teams are in a completely different league. The Bears got to restart. Caleb Williams looks like he could be the guy. Not definitely is. Could be the guy. They need a new coach. They need a new atmosphere. They need a new culture. The Bears need to hurry up and get to the offseason because it's bad. So I'll take Vikings minus 6.5. Vikings team that is still very much alive to not only win the NFC North, but be the number 1 seed. And then finally, the Falcons against the Raiders. No one has been more critical of the Falcons than I have been. I've been right all along the way this past week. I didn't count it for my record, obviously, because, I mean, this Road to 272 is just about, actual posted sides and totals. But if you listened last week, I told you to bet the alt line. I tweeted out, I think 30 minutes before the game, that I had bet Vikings minus 14. And if you did that, congratulations. Because I knew that was going to be a complete blowout, and that game actually turned out almost exactly like I predicted. almost down to a T. I said Vikings DBs were going to torch the Falcons secondary. I mean, there was the play of D. Alford literally tripped over his own feet because he didn't know what side of the field the ball was being thrown to. Jordan Addison had 1 million yards. Justin Jefferson had 1 million yards. Kirk Cousins threw interceptions because he was under pressure. I called that game pretty much to a T. With that being said, and I heard last week, by the way, I heard people saying, nobody's on the Falcons. Now's the time to take the Falcons. No. We had to wait 1 more week. That would have been the time to take the Falcons, except for the fact that that was the worst possible stylistic matchup. Now is the time we buy low in Atlanta. Listen, I've come to accept that the Falcons are not making the playoffs this year. They're not going to win a playoff game. We got to figure out our quarterback situation. We obviously got to figure out a defensive situation. We might have to move on and find a different coach. I don't know. We got a lot to think about in the offseason. We're not going to lose to the Raiders. We're not going to lose to the Raiders who might be starting Desmond Ridder. Which also, I say that, but Desmond Ridder having a career game against us would be the most Falcons thing in the world. I just don't think that's going to happen. The Raiders are not a good football team. Dead last in the NFL in EPA per play. If Desmond Ridder starts, they're going to be even worse. So they're already the worst offense in the NFL. They're going to be even worse if Ridder starts. Also, I know the Falcons have been bad. Give them some credit. They just got through a gauntlet of 3 playoff teams. Vikings, Chargers, and Broncos. Got their ass kicked by the Broncos. Should have beat the Chargers. It was a blowout against the Vikings, but it was 21-21 at one point before the Falcons just shit their pants. They're not a bad team. They aren't. They're not a great team. They're borderline a good team. But 4.5 point spread against the Raiders. Come on, guys. We're better than that. I legitimately think the Falcons should be 6-point favorites in this game, if not higher. Probably not 7, 6, 6.5. Honestly, I actually really do think that. Falcons still 12th in the NFL in net yards per play, and to be honest, I don't think a lot of teams reflect where they rank in the NFL in net yards per play. Like I said earlier, the Titans are 18th in net yards per play. They're not the 18th best team. The Falcons being 12th in net yards per play, I actually think that's very accurate. I think the Falcons are both the 12th best team in the NFL. I really do. I might be wrong, but that's my opinion. They're 8th in offensive success rate. They have plenty of offensive weapons. Bijan Robinson has been fantastic. Darnell Mooney and Drake London have been fantastic. Kirk Cousins' turnovers and penalties have absolutely killed them. Penalties killed them against the Vikings. 12 penalties in that game for over 125 yards. Let me see where they rank now compared to the rest of the NFL. They have to be one of the most penalized teams. Penalties per game. Surprisingly, actually not that high. 6.1 penalties per game. Over their last 3, 6.7. So they have been more penalized as the season has gone on. Penalty yards per game. 52.9. Ranks 19th. Not as bad as I thought, to be honest, but it feels like lately, especially offensively. It feels like every time they have some momentum on offense, it's a holding, it's a false start, it's illegal hands to the face, it's something. Regardless, the Raiders are not a good team. They're bad offensively, bad defensively. The Falcons bounce back with a win on Monday night. I'm actually pretty confident in saying that. And I do think I've been pretty good at calling Falcons games this season. So that will be one of my best bets of the week. All right, let's recap my plays. I'll give you my 5 best bets, and then I'll give you my teaser of the week, and then we'll get out of here. So starting with Thursday Night Football, we got 49ers minus 2.5. Panthers minus 1 against the Cowboys. Browns plus 4.5 against the Chiefs. Dolphins on the money line plus 130 against the Texans. Titans plus 4.5 to the Bengals. Commanders minus 7.5 to the Saints. Jets minus 3, minus 115 to the Jaguars. By the way, Commanders minus 108. Ravens minus 14.5, minus 112 to the Giants. Steelers plus 5.5, minus 113 to the Eagles. Broncos minus 3.5 to the Colts. Lions minus 1.5 to the Bills. Buccaneers plus 3, minus 115 to the Chargers. Patriots plus 6.5, minus 110 to the Cardinals. Seahawks plus 3, minus 115 to the Packers. Vikings minus 6.5 to the Bears. And then finally, Falcons minus 4.5, minus 105 to the Raiders. Best bets. Last week, I only won 4 bets all week. 2 of them were my best bets, though. Vikings minus 4.5, Chargers plus 4. So I guess I gave out Chargers plus 4 as the best bet. Moneyline obviously didn't hit for my record, though. But for best bets, Chargers covered. Vikings covered. Bills and Rams might have been the worst bet I placed all season. I took under 49.5 between the Bills and the Rams, and it finished 44-42. So about 38 points over the total. Saints and Giants over 40. That one wasn't close. Eagles minus 12 against the Panthers had a chance to hitting, but the Panthers were feisty. Teaser did hit last week. Teaser of the week did hit. We got Chargers plus 10 against the Chiefs. Buccaneers minus 1 against the Raiders. That was actually a relatively easy winner. So how many teasers in a week? Two straight teasers we've won. Week 15, my best bets are Dolphins plus 3 against Texans. Jets minus 3 against Jaguars. Broncos minus 3.5 against the Colts. Vikings minus 6.5 against the Bears. And Falcons minus 4.5 against the Raiders. So Dolphins, Jets, Broncos, Vikings, and Falcons all to cover. By the way, you may have noticed no total bets this week. I've mentioned it earlier, but in every season so far doing the Road to 272, I've been really good at totals to start the season, and then as the season goes on, I get worse and worse and worse. And this past week, I went 0-4 in totals bets. So I might just, unless I really like a totals bet, I might just stick to sides the rest of the season. Like I said, it's been every year now in the Road to 272. Starting hot with the totals, second half of the season, I'm seeing totals wrong. I don't know what it is. So, Dolphins, Jets, Broncos, Vikings, Falcons all to cover. My teaser of the week is we're going to take the Commanders down from 7.5 down to 1.5 against the Saints. That obviously crosses both the key numbers of 7 and 3. And we're going to take the Vikings down from 6.5 to 0.5. So basically a pick 'em as long as they don't tie. Commanders minus 1.5 Saints against Saints, and the Vikings 0.5 minus 0.5 against the Bears is my 6-point teaser of the week. All right, thank you all so much for watching, listening, and subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. Just a heads up, I will not have a audio version again this week of the Player Prop Countdown. I mean, I'll let you know I went 5-5 this past week for a small profit because of Juwan Johnson scored a touchdown for us, so we did take a step forward in the Player Prop Countdown this week. But I have family coming to visit. They get here Wednesday afternoon. I'm not going to take 3 hours out of one of my only nights this month that I get to spend with my mother and sister and nephew. I'm not going to take that time away so I can record a Player Prop Countdown. I will have the written version out Thursday morning, so I'm still going to do the Player Prop Countdown. You just won't get an audio or video version of it. If you want to read that article with my best player props, you can check it out at si.com/betting. I will also tweet it out on Thursday morning. All right, thank you all so much for watching and listening. The road to 272 marches on.